Say hi, Louie. Right up here, boy. Psst, psst. Look, look. Right up here. Right up here. Ooh. I'd say he's saying hi to you, but he doesn't know about you, and he doesn't care. And that way he's like me. So, I made a tabletop role-playing game from the ground up. And I'm going to tell you one of the secrets. You know, if you're trying to be an innovator, make something new. You know, what you really got to do is be willing to confront the thing or the things many other people are not willing to confront. In reality, it's like going to war. If you want to make something new, there are a lot of ideas on the market. So making something new can be very challenging. It's so challenging that most people nowadays copy and paste other people's old games and simply tweak those and sell them as completely new games. Or at least that is the claim. Here's a new game. Well, a new old game. See, when you're making a game, it can be very challenging, right? So you're going to go at something. And you shouldn't be afraid to want to put something in your game, but here's what I would say. Every time you go to put it in, the attempt to justify that thing into your game in some way, into the setting, into the rules, into the whatever, like just make it justified. Think of the questions customers may ask. Don't ignore them. Don't say, oh, it's just a game. It's acceptable. And maybe in some way that is true. It is just a game. But you're an innovator and you're making something new and you want to discover something everybody else hasn't. You don't want your game just to be another somewhat clone of other ideas, other games. So even though, yeah, it's just a game, you want to work on trying to justify it because it's within that work that most people are avoiding that you're going to discover different ways of thinking, secrets, ideas you never thought of before. And that new way of thinking as you go to battle, you're going to learn from that. Those techniques could lead to new ideas in different areas. And it's not about getting easier. Look, some things you'll be challenged with are going to be easier than others to figure out. But here's what happens as you justify the things into whatever you're doing. You master them. You master that thing. You clean it up in a certain way. Whatever simple answer is at the end of that, you got to go through some complication to get to the other side so you understand it. You're not going to get far if you don't have much of an imagination, to be honest. Right? And you'd be thinking, well, people in the tabletop role-playing game hobby, they have a great imagination. Not everyone. Most people don't work it out that well. Put it this way. The majority of people are not having the best experience that they can have because they actually lack imagination in a hobby where you think it would be a core skill or something to bring with you. They don't bring much. And a lot of people that are out there designing games or cloning games, well, there's very little innovation going on. Very little imagination being pushed forth in that way. See, if you want to get your imagination up, you got to work it out. Read books that require your imagination. Story novels. Find quiet time to listen to some music. Tell a story in your mind about yourself, your own life, what's going on. Use the music to help you tell a story. But think of it like a workout. Like working out for an hour with weights. Maybe once a week you can find like a half an hour or something where you just put some headphones on and tell a story. Play with that imagination. Do that for a little while. Find a novel. Work it out. And then after a few weeks, watch as you go to play a game or try something or to think about that next idea you need to come up with. You'll be amazed how your imagination will be improved. How you can trigger it without any triggers at all being around. You can just turn that on whenever you want. What you find out is you never needed a trigger to begin with. You just needed to know how to turn it on yourself. That's all. You know, there are a lot of ideas out there, but in all honesty, when it comes to making something from the ground up, 99% of projects will never ever see the market. There are so many ideas that are unseen on the market. There's more ideas not on the market than there are ideas on the market. Innovation in the hobby is not much. Not much compared to where it could be. You know, it's like we had a Renaissance day back in like the 80s and 90s. A bunch of games were made. Mostly everything after that is some form of clone of that time of innovation. When people were willing to take a chance and a risk because the customer base were desperate and were willing to finance many things in many situations. Go back, there was a lot of garbage put out that got cleaned up later. And it got financed, it got purchased, it got bought because customers didn't have the selection they have now. Everyone was desperate for something, and they got it. And lucky those innovators did get that financial support at the time, because we literally stand on the backs of those giants now. Most of the so-called new from ground up games made are somewhat still a clone. Even like it's not just the OSR, right? And now it's mostly third-party products. More people take the safe road in the hobby now than take a risk or take a chance. Because taking a risk or a chance means you might not make money. That's the scary thing about bringing out a whole new game. There might be no money in it, where the safe road is for the clone of the D&D game or the third-party thing, or your game pretty much being a clone of another game. It's just so safe. That's why there's very little in risk-taking and chance-taking. And the customer base supports those who take the safest path. Like who can produce faster because they're copying and pasting. Because the customer base is hungry for more and more and more. It's just the truth. Even though I'm telling you how to innovate, how to come up with new ideas by taking on things other people aren't. And there's a lot in the hobby they'll tell you that can't be done. They'll tell you that. They're full of shit. I remember when I was young, they told me you couldn't do pure theater of the mind, high-scale combat, large-scale combat in Dungeons and Dragons. That means doing combat in the mind, in the imagination, without miniatures, without a terrain, and it be large-scale. It was impossible to do that in pure theater of the mind. Yet, other than some rough patches, and I'm lucky I stayed in. When you're first learning, your failure could be evidence that they're right. Right? If you want to buy that. But guess what? I kept working on it and I got to the end. I broke through and got to that diamond. Here's what I found out. There was a diamond. It's just like that picture shows. When they get up to that diamond, there's one layer before the diamond. But they gave up. Walked away. And they told me that it was impossible. There was no diamond. I'm glad I didn't listen. I got the diamond. And yeah, I can do large-scale combat, old-school D&D, and pure theater of the mind, like breathing air. That's how easy it is. So yeah, I got to tell you, it's not a safe road for someone who wants to make something completely new. It's not. And like I said, 99% of things never hit the market because everyone is making their own game with the new ideas that you never heard of, and they're stuck somewhere in a game, somewhere on a shelf or in a basement on the floor or in someone's mind, and they want to protect their ideas. The problem is they see all these other games and all the other things being added to them, and they keep looking at their game. Does my game have enough? It's never complete. I need to add this. I need to do this. Or they can't get support, right? There's not much support for people that need it in the hobby when it comes to being somebody who makes something from the ground up. So a lot of these projects just end up not getting anywhere, and that's what I mean when I say there's so many fantastic ideas that exist. They're created. They're somewhere written down, but we have yet to see them, and we may never see them. In my opinion, the hobby should focus on helping independent people, innovators, and expect that they shouldn't have to make friends. We should just have stuff, lanes in the hobby where it's a lot easier. It shouldn't just be fucking ChatGPT, if you get what I'm saying. Right? But if you do want to innovate, and you're having a hard time, or you're wondering how do you make something from scratch when you can't come up with ideas, you're not coming up with a new thing, you're not coming up with a new wheel, but how do you come up with a new wheel? And is there a new wheel to come up with? Well, there is. And I told you how. And it's not vague. It's not like direct, but there is no direct way to do this. The way you innovate, the way you find new things is by experimenting and digging in. And that part, I've told you exactly what to do. You go face the challenges as you come up with an idea for your game. You don't ever run away from them. You answer them. Doesn't even mean you need to put the answer in the game. It doesn't even need the answer needs to get out there. But within answering it is where you learn, where you may discover, or where you learn how to discover in other areas. It's the truth. It is really the truth. And it really does work. It's that simple. It's not simple, but it is that simple. You know what to do. Now it's time to do it, right? Anyway, I love you, at least most of you. For now, take care.